Do you remember meeting someone new who you knew in an instant would be your friend? Meeting Henry was like that for me. When he was 3 years old, Henry moved from Tennessee south to Tallahassee, where I lived at the time. And he was accompanied by his parent, HP, who had been hired to serve as the religious education director for the UU Church of Tallahassee. That's where I was a member, the wife of the minister, parent to a child in the religious exploration program, and a seminarian at the time. When I learned that HP and their son Henry would be moving to our Tallahassee community, I knew I wanted to welcome them. I'd also moved there recently and had moved around a lot, and I knew the value of welcome when moving to a new place, and I wanted a new friend. My first encounter with Henry, however, was completely by chance. While strolling through Tallahassee's gorgeous open-air Floridian church campus, heading across the green courtyard toward the sanctuary, I literally ran into Henry, or to be more accurate, Henry ran into me. "Hi, friend!" Henry yelled, his whole body charged with energy, bounding down the sidewalk, wearing shorts and a t-shirt, a shock of blonde hair, and a huge smile on his face. But what was most noticeable were his small arms, just stretched open wide as he ran, as if ready to hug the world, like wings taking flight. "Hi," I replied, charmed by his charisma. "Hi, friend!" Henry bellowed in reply, continuing to exclaim his friendship with the world, to me or to anyone else who was going to cross his path. He was moving so fast it was actually impossible to catch a hug from Henry, but that didn't matter. Hugs simply radiated from his being. And while I had been prepared to personally welcome Henry, he actually was the one who ended up welcoming me into friendship. But what impacted me most about this encounter was the trust that Henry exhibited in the return of the welcome from the world. He moved through the world believing that friends were there, waiting in his new home, simply waiting for him to run out and meet. Hi, friend. What if every time we met a new person, our greeting was like that? What if every time we entered a new community, we assumed it was filled with friends? When I was growing up, there was another person who taught me the value of friendship. No surprise here, Fred Rogers, the theme of our service, or Mr. Rogers to his television viewers. He called us all his friend and neighbor too. If you know the songs, I'm going to sing a couple. You can sing with me and help me out. You are my friend, you are special. You are my friend, you're special to me. You are the only one like you. You are my friend, I like you. Incredibly, every song, every episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is infused with the spirit of welcome and compassion. Through his television ministry, he taught the world what a loving community of friends and neighbors can truly be and feel like. And as a person who grew up as part of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, here are just a couple of things that I remember. I felt a deep kinship with Fred's puppet, Daniel Tiger, who I believe he said was the representation of his self. who modeled that it's okay to confess our worries and to receive counsel and care. In fact, my kinship with Daniel Tiger was so close that when I happened to stumble upon the actual puppet in Pittsburgh in the Children's Museum, where Mr. Rogers was from, I immediately began uncontrollably weeping because of how meaningful that was for me. It's incredible. I remember Mr. Rogers singing "It's You I Like" to a child in a wheelchair, and his open curiosity and conversation that easily invited the child to show off his wheelchair and what it could do, inviting the questions that we might think but be afraid to ask, and creating organic, natural friendship and relationship. Mr. Rogers embodied allyship, not by naming it, but by being an ally and a friend. Fred Rogers had a kind of presence, listening with genuine interest and curiosity that slowed the pace and invited real relationship, a genuine human exchange with paying attention and receiving that continually led to the same revelation, our mutual humanity. Today, I think of Mr. Rogers when I'm running late. In particular, actually, as a parent, there's a gruff way that I tend to speak to my child or my family when we're rushing out the door to get somewhere. I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced that. When my daughter first started attending elementary school, she's in middle school now. When she first started attending elementary school and we were ruled by the clock, we'd inevitably be running late every morning. And I had a tendency to hover and pressure her, put on her shoes faster, grab her coat now, run down the stairs as we're going to the car. But thinking of Mr. Rogers and how he would handle that moment helped me change my energy and practice slowing down and speaking more lovingly. The art of patience is a discipline that values relationship and presence over externally forced constructs, and actually you still get there in pretty much the same amount of time. Even the simple construct of the clock can place uncomfortable and at times oppressive demands on our relationships, our bodies, our time, and our lives. And it's a small thing, really, but taking deep breaths in those moments while heading out the door and remembering to treat my child like a friend, myself like a friend, has helped me to remain true to the covenant I have, not only to care for her, but to treat her with respect, to honor her humanity, and to be her, not only her mother and caregiver, but her friend. Despite his young audience, however, Mr. Rogers didn't shy away from hard topics. He addressed difficult childhood experiences and emotions, not just things like being late or shyness or anxiety, but also bullying or larger world events and realities such as the Vietnam War or racism in the Jim Crow era. And while he didn't address politics or current events directly, he didn't address them directly, meaning he didn't name them as specifically as one maybe could, or show up and protest in the streets. He touched on these issues by acting them out, and he did engage and teach children and anyone watching, their parents or caregivers, about how to engage and move through the difficult things in the world. He explored them in his make-believe world, giving his puppets difficult experiences that they then worked out together, and he addressed them as an adult living in his television neighborhood. He helped children process war by imagining bombs going off in his neighborhood of make-believe and having the puppets in the neighborhood send balloons that floated messages of peace and love up in the air in response. He responded to the racism of the Jim Crow era by putting a wading pool on his television set and inviting his neighborhood's police officer, Francois Clemmons, a Black gay man, closeted gay at the time, to cool off his feet with him in the water. Francois, a Black man, and Fred, a white man, sat side by side in chairs with their feet in the pool together, not segregated, laughing. And their simple action of togetherness spoke back against racist segregation. Afterwards, Fred placed Francois's feet in his lap and dried his feet with a towel. This image of Mr. Rogers drying Mr. Clemmons' feet, Officer Clemmons' feet, the two of them laughing together, has become symbolic of Mr. Rogers' ministry of welcome. And we must see this as a ministry. That is what it was. When I see this picture as an adult today, I'm reminded of the biblical ritual of foot washing. My Christian upbringing immediately links Mr. Rogers washing the feet of his friend to Bible stories with biblical characters washing and drying the feet of Jesus. I also learned from a documentary, if you haven't seen the one that came out a few years ago, I recommend it, that Francois Clemmons, as I mentioned, was a closeted gay man at the time of recording, and that Fred Rogers, a father figure to Francois, knew this and sung the song, "It's You I Like," as a message of love and affirmation for his friend. Sing along if you know the song. I'm going to try to grab the tune. It's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the way you do your hair, but it's you I like. The way you are right now, the way down deep inside you. Not the things that hide you, not your toys. They're just beside you. But it's you I like, every part of you, your skin, your eyes, your feelings, whether old or new. I hope that you'll remember, even when you're feeling blue, that it's you I like, it's you yourself, it's you I like. So deep, right? So deep. Fred Rogers' ministry of welcome happened on television, but it wasn't just an act. It was natural and infused into his way of life. It was more than just a show. It was the way that he lived. He was a little bit rigid, I have to say, if you really look into some of the things his wife and kids have said, but we appreciated his self-discipline, I think, as viewers. I'm not trying to speak badly of the man, but wow, what discipline. He taught by example, extending curiosity and friendship to millions of viewers, mainly young children, but adults too, in hopes of increasing their capacity for inner and outer love. In a 1983 article on Fred Rogers by the Vegetarian Times, did you know he was a vegetarian? Okay. Who knew? Journalist Paul Obis wrote, "It surprises most people when they hear that this guru of children's television is also a minister, because Fred Rogers doesn't talk about God or Christianity on the show. Rather, his is a sort of ministry by style and example, which is just as well. Privately, Fred Rogers is candid about his ministry. Quote, 'I want to be a vehicle for God, to spread his message of love and peace,' says Rogers. 'The children who watch the show are my congregation, and I take my ministry very seriously.'" In this spirit, Mr. Rogers' ministry, in my opinion, can be a beautiful metaphor, I believe, for Unitarian Universalism and our ministry in the world. You see, Mr. Rogers was a Christian minister in his heart, and I know maybe we aren't all Christian here, probably not most of us, but our religion is infused with the values of our Christian heritage. Mr. Rogers didn't preach about Jesus to his public viewers. Instead, he lived his life in a way that was infused with the values of these teachings in a kindred way to our faith tradition now, which doesn't need to name a single deity, but is infused with values of loving others like neighbors. And we could go more into values in another sermon. Our UU community is like this, regardless of whether we are theists as individuals. We have these values embedded in the fabric of our religion from our Protestant heritage. We may not, and we should not, profess a creed or share a holy book. That's not why we're together, but we honor a range of religious sources, including the Abrahamic faith traditions, and we commit to shared principles and values that are infused with these teachings of Jesus from our ancestral Universalist and Unitarian inheritance. These teachings are also infused within the Jewish values that informed how Jesus lived, such as the golden rule that we might refer to, that's biblically based, of loving God with all your heart and all your mind and loving your neighbor as yourself. So as you use, we don't often mention Jesus. You visitors here with us seem like you may have been to a UU church before, but we don't mention Jesus at every service. Am I right? We're fundamentally not Christian, and yet our Protestant roots do inform who we are. This rootstock informs our principles and our values, especially the value of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, which echoes the teaching of the golden and the silver rules. To open and expand your heart to loving the essence of life and to always remember that the essence of life is all around you. Who is your neighbor? So I invite you to look around. Your neighbors surround you. They are the people who decorate this planet with their diversity. Here in this room, across the street, selling peaches. They are members of this more than human world of which we people are just a small part, the creeping, crawling ones outside. In her article, again, the same article that Madeline read from, 𝐀𝐿 writes, when Mr. Rogers called us neighbors, when he hosted us in his own neighborhood for over 30 years, he was calling us gently but firmly out of our structures of power and silos of sameness into lives of mercy and care for one another. He didn't mention his Christian foundation, and he didn't need to. His ministry was how he lived, which is actually how Jesus encouraged us to live too. Likewise, may we as UUs weave our principles and values into all that we do over the next congregational year and beyond. If we're just theoretical, if we just talk about our ideas and ideals without putting them into action and embodying them into our lives, they mean nothing. But when we embody these values, when we live them into being, they become real and are realized. We human beings love stories because stories teach us about who we are and how to live, which is why I not only told you the story of Mr. Rogers, but also of Henry, who greeted everyone as a friend. And I have a little additional message about Henry before we close. Parents, caregivers, educators in the room, you might guess that while Henry was incredibly outgoing, naturally gregarious, and downright awesome, his high friend was learned behavior. Henry's parent, HP, also called everyone, especially children, by the endearment of friend, I would learn. Over the 2 years that I spent with HP and Henry, I must have heard them both say, hi, friend, dozens, if not hundreds of times. It's a small thing, really, the word friend, the word neighbor. But there's magic in words like these. When spoken aloud, the word friend feels like an open invitation to a party or like fresh cookies and milk. The word friend contains within it a kind of covenant. It's a womb-like space. It says, Yes, I will be your companion for a while. Let's move on down life's dusty road together. Let's share a bit of this journey together. Let's be friends. So may we each find friendship here with one another in ways big or small. May this be so, and may we be the ones to make it so in the coming year and beyond.